I'm so glad that you were able to join us for Sky Blue Summit. I'm Kaylin Young, a member of the Sky Blue Media team, and I'm so excited to get this started with our CEO and founder, Rakia Reynolds, leading the discussion. So while you're watching, be sure to share your questions in our Q&A below. Enter a little bit of information about yourself in the polls, and also be sure to enter our Working From Home giveaway sponsored by Dell. We're so excited to be helping and supporting small businesses at this time. And so if you just want to log onto Instagram, make sure your Instagram is a public profile, share a post about your small business and using the hashtag SkyBlueSummit, and tag Sky Blue Media at Sky Blue Media and at Dell for a chance to win. Thanks so much. Grab your pens and I'll kick it over to you, Rakia.
Thank you so much, Kaylin. So I'm super excited about this. I have my friends Renee, Elizabeth, and James here, and I wanted to kick off the Sky Blue Summit, just bringing in folks that I've admired throughout the years and people that are doing some great work in the community now. So just so everyone knows, we want this to be, like just a discussion. So this is a discussion among friends, and you are all, everyone attending, all of the attendees, you are our friends as well. And we do encourage you to ask some questions because we consider this an interactive virtual summit. This is the first time that we're doing this, so bear with us if there are any, ripples along the way. So give us our grace there. Again, my name is Rakia Reynolds. I'm the founder and CEO of Sky Blue Media. We are a multimedia communications agency, and we serve people, products, and places. I'm also the founder of Everyday Jane, an apparel company, and fan of your brand that helps small businesses on their business branding and bragging. So again, great for you all to be here. I just wanted to start off with you all giving yourselves, just introduce yourselves to the people. Would love to hear who you are, what you do, and maybe if there's something today that is inspiring you amidst this time that we're all trying to navigate. And I do want to give that, we're all trying to navigate these times. And so for Sky Blue Media, for us, it was how do we bring all of these folks together to sort of think like futurists as we try to look at the recovery phase of this crisis that we're all working through right now. So Renee, why don't you start?
Hi, everyone. My name is Renee Bluitt. I am the, creator and executive producer of She Did That. It is a documentary about the rise of Black women entrepreneurs that is now on Netflix. I am also a PR and branding expert and just a lover of Black culture and Black women-owned businesses, which is why I do what I do.
Awesome. Love that, Renee. Elizabeth?
Howdy, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Gore. I'm one of the co-founders of Hello Alice. We're a digital platform that helps small business owners launch and grow. We have 100% pivoted our social enterprise towards building the COVID-19 Business Center to help small business owners survive and ultimately, hopefully, thrive again. And we're very proud of all of you business owners for everything you're going through. And what inspires me right now, this sounds odd, but are the owners who've had to make the hardest choices and pause their business. Those of you who've had to stop your business and reopen later, that's very painful and hard. And I'm so inspired by you making the hard but right decisions.
All right, and I'll go. I'm James Chung, and I am a president of a strategy research and predictive analytics firm called Reach Advisors, as well as a partner in a data science firm called Stratodem Analytics. At Reach Advisors, it's a data-driven strategy firm that generates data on what we call the midterm future, understanding how markets are going to be shifting in the future than how they look today, so clients can make better strategy and capital commitments to take advantage of those shifts and to be able to address those shifts and to be able to prosper amidst the changes coming ahead. We spun out a data science firm out of that, Stratodem Analytics, which generates local market intelligence and forecasting, primarily used for the real estate asset class. As for something that's been inspiring me today, I've been spending a lot of my time over the last week with a lot of journalists, and I have to say that I've been impressed. There are a lot of journalists out there that are busting their tails trying to understand what's happening so they can provide better information and fill voids and knowledge about what's happening with the spread of COVID and what happens afterwards as well too. So that's been really reassuring that we do have a group out there that is working in overdrive, trying to help make sense of all this.
Yeah, James, you know, I've always been really interested in your work, and you and I have these great conversations around big data and how to look at risk. And I think, you know, a lot of folks obviously were not prepared for this. I mean, the world was not prepared for this. I mean, I'd love to hear from all of you, how has, I mean, as everyone has had this shift, this major shift, how has your work in particular shifted over the past, you know, 2 weeks? And I'm saying 2 weeks because things are changing day by day. And at Skai Blue Media, we've been operating on these sort of 5-day sprints, doing things week by week. How has your work changed over the past 2 weeks?
I'll start. I was in the middle of the tour for my film that just launched on Netflix back in February. We had all of these incredible dates coming up for screenings and, you know, community discussions like South by Southwest and just all over the country. Every single date, one by one, got canceled. And so the work that I've been doing has literally come to a freeze. And I've been really just trying to look for the blessing in that. As a creator, I think it's easy for me to get caught up in, you know, the doing and the traveling and the executing and not taking a real step back to kind of be quiet and strategize. And so for me personally, that's what I've been trying to use this time for, just planning for the future and looking at, specifically with my work surrounding Black women entrepreneurs, how these COVID times are impacting their businesses, how I could be more of a partner, you know, how I can continue telling our stories while we are in this, you know, space that's, you know, unexpected and unpredictable.
Yeah. Elizabeth?
Yeah, man, everything. I would say we, very similar, we were headed to South by Southwest. As a small company, we had put more money into a marketing campaign than we'd ever even considered, called Business for All. Nationwide marketing campaign, paid media, big activation at South by, and I watched a couple $100,000 fly out the door in about 24 hours. And as a very frugal company already, we were taking a risk by even doing that. And I got to tell you, that was a choke. And I only say that because we're all going through huge financial loss for one reason or another, and it's very relative to the size of the business you're in. So we financially got turned upside down really quickly. But on a positive side, our social enterprise, our job is to help small business owners. And so suddenly our site almost crashed. We had hundreds of thousands of small business owners coming onto our digital platform looking for help. So similar to Renee, all the events we were going to do, the tours, the advertising, we took every bit of that blood, sweat, and tears and pivoted internal and went on a full engineering mode and built the COVID Center. And there was a lot of purpose and excitement about that. It also makes us completely move around talent in our organization, move around finances in our organization, and then doing that all from home. So I also started teaching 3rd grade math, which I'm terrible at. I have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old I am homeschooling. I already love teachers, but now I'm going to buy them cocktails, give them my house, like whatever, when we go back. So all this to say, the business pivoted so fast, and then every person on our leadership team has small children. So we've had to pivot how we work as a business to be conducive to parenthood as well.
Mm. Well, Elizabeth, while we're on that, the COVID Business Resource Center, because you are uniquely positioned right now to really serve small businesses, talk to the people about the COVID Business Resource Center and some of the grants that you all are able to distribute.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. I see we have 50 people on here. We had 51,000, believe it or not, go through the COVID-19 center in the last 4 days. So it's covid19businesscenter.com. And what we have done is broken down an easier navigation. And I got to shout out to the National Chamber of Commerce. They're our full partner in this, and it's helping a business owner navigate the CARES Act. We can help you through an e-learning module, apply, understand what you are qualified for. There's a navigator for all the private funds out there. Facebook, AWS, Verizon, all have funds. We have a grant that you can apply for, $10,000 emergency grant that moves every 3 weeks. The most to access resource, though, that I want to stress is mental health as a business owner, and then also how to pause your business and furlough employees. And I know those are hard things to access, but they're important. So we will continue to update the center every single day till the end to help our owners. And finally, thanks to, in all transparently, we worked a lot with Rakia's team, and we're also putting forward a great community of owners who can talk to each other in forums like this. So, and we don't have all the answers, my Lord, do we not? So every time y'all have something that is helping, you can email us, we'll pop it up there. You also tell us, hey, this is not working. The amount of emails we're getting about PPP and the CARES Act, we are really trying to see how helpful we can be there. But please access the COVID Center. It is free. Your data is not being collected and sold. It is just here for you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Speaking of data, James, you were putting together, your research company was putting together some reports around economic loss broken down by county. Talk to us a little bit about that work and some of the data that you were seeing. And I would say you were seeing this data pretty early on, you know, at the beginning of March before we started seeing things in, you know, national media. Talk to us about some of the data you've been seeing.
Yeah, so over at my data science firm, Strategy Analytics, we've been calculating recession impacts on a county-by-county level. And we realized that some counties had already tipped into a recession back in February, separate from the COVID crisis. But in March, it was becoming crystal clear that America had tipped into a recession. And we look at it at a macro level and a micro level, a local level. On a macro level, we've compiled a national GDP consensus forecast from the leading investment banks. And we're looking at a likely GDP drop of 29% in Q2. That's 29% of the economy evaporating in this next quarter. It's even worse in counties that are driven by either tourism, oil and gas, or cyclical manufacturing. And if you're in one of those counties, economic activity will likely drop 30 to 50% in Q2. That's a world of hurt. And those counties are entering nothing short of survival mode. And if you're in those regions, it is just really, really, really hard. And basically, we're going to see how strong communities are in terms of their ability to pull out of this as a tight and strong community. Now, there are also the counties that won't get whacked as hard as the rest of the nation, either because they're heavily dependent on governmental activity and governmental spending, or because they're dominated by companies that are driving the work-at-home infrastructure. So like Silicon Valley or Williamson County, Texas, which is the home of Dell, will drop only about 2/3 the rate as the rest of the U.S. And that's one of the things we're learning from this, is that the work from anywhere phenomena that's showing up in the numbers here is a trend that's likely to sustain and accelerate far beyond Q2 as we start thinking about, we just laid out numbers on what's going to happen for the next 3 months, but then we're also trying to take a look at what happens beyond those 3 months, what happens after the COVID recession. And that's absolutely one of the things that we see changing dramatically is the work at home phenomena, work from anywhere phenomena, live from anywhere, work and live from anywhere phenomena is going to be one of the big shifts that's going to have a lot of ripple effects, positive, some negative, but a lot of positive effects as well too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting insight as we look at, you know, a lot of companies and companies that we work with, you know, we are working through the crisis piece, and then there's going to be that triage piece. And then, you know, what we're talking about this evening is that future and the recovery planning. Renee, what were some of the things you saw early on with some of the brands that you work with? And I do want to get into how a lot of folks are turning to art right now and have you speak a little bit about your documentary on Netflix and some of the other things that we've been seeing, but would love to hear what you were seeing from brands so early on.
So what I was seeing is really when I was doing PR, one of the things that I always talk to my clients about was just the importance of being a good partner, you know, being a good neighbor, being a good friend. And hold on, something popped up on my screen. And through this, I'm really proud to see some of the founders really stepping up to the plate, founders that would normally be behind the scenes a little bit are stepping forward, seeing more letters from founders, seeing more founders engaging on social, whether it's through IG Live or just posting more and just letting their customers know that like, this is a frightening time for all of us and we're here for you. One example of that I thought was really awesome, Lisa Price, the founder of Carol's Daughter, it was like maybe mid-March, she did a live from Lisa's kitchen. Which
I'm a Lisa super fan, just to put that out there real quick.
Yes, she is
and
so
her
awesome.
shoes. Best shoes ever.
Yes, she's so awesome. And so she got on IG Live and did live from Lisa's kitchen. And it was really just a conversation with her followers, with her customers about how she's coping through the quarantine. It was also a mentoring session, which is something that, you know, typically she doesn't have a lot of time to do, but we have a little extra time now. And women were pouring in with so many questions about business, about, you know, the pivots that they may have to make now. And I thought it was smart because it was really in alignment with her brand story. I mean, we all know that she started Carol's Daughter in her kitchen in Brooklyn. And now here she is full circle, being a friend to her customers during this really scary time from her kitchen. So it was awesome to be able to see her, you know, in her space. You see her kitchen in the background. She's just being Lisa, but it's the perfect opportunity for founders to really, really connect with people because these are the moments that we're going to remember when we come out of this. And, you know, in that conversation, she wasn't selling Carol's Daughter. This was just Lisa Price connecting with her customers and, you know, being a friend through challenging times.
Well, that's awesome. I think it's great to see brands, and we work with brands to utilize this moment to just connect with their communities because a lot of folks just need connection. I mean, Elizabeth, you had mentioned something the other day and you posted on your IG, you know, the fact that some founders just want the space to just be able to talk about, you know, this is what I'm going through, or these are the things that I need help with. What are some of the other things? I think, you know, from a tactical standpoint, a lot of businesses, because of the uncertainty, and every single headline that we read right now is, you know, we see uncertainty and we see unprecedented. And from, you know, a lot of futurists sort of think in the way of, hey, let me look at what happened in the past, or let me look at the past economic downturn to sort of predict what I'm supposed to do. But none of us have been through this in any of our lifetimes. Could you, and anyone, you know, chime in, can you talk to us about some things that you see businesses getting right, i.e. like connecting with their communities, getting right to, you know, as they go into the future and recovery planning of this?
Sure. I mean, the best source of news, information, and advice right now, I think, are your peers. I'm really pushing folks to join forums like this, to reach out to other business owners, Once you talk to 5 different business owners and you hear a pattern amongst them, generally that tends to be very good advice. The owners that I'm talking to right now that I feel like will really make it through this are ones who are using this time to very strategically plan for 2021. And they're throwing everything out the door, not trying to hold on to old plans and starting over. And not, you know, yes, we have to get through the day-to-day right now. We have to manage cash flow, but taking some white space to say, if I have this much capital in September and this much capital in December, and then put 5 options there, right? If I have 1, 4, or 10 in capital, what is my 2021 plan? Those are the folks that I put a lot of faith in right now, because they are thinking of every scenario and they're starting now to think that through. And what I'm hoping is that right now we're in survival, but maybe in a couple of weeks there can start being some planning like that, and us helping each other figure those forward-looking plans. And then finally, I just wanted to, I pulled up our data impact report and wanted to share the one thing that popped to the top, in the top 10 things impacting small business right now, and employee distraction and anxiety is in the 3rd. And so we've been asking a lot of owners, what does that mean? And what is helping? And it's, again, conversations with your peers. That you're not the only one going through this, have an outlet, don't get isolated. So I wanted to flag that as well. But again, forward planning is big. And then I think right now for survival is pulling out of that anxiety and distraction and having these conversations.
Mm-hmm. We had a question come in, so I want to be mindful of that as this is an interactive discussion. The folks are asking, what's the best thing small business owners can do right now? I think you answered some of that, Elizabeth, but James and Renee, if you have some feedback there, we'd love to hear that. And then someone just chimed in and said, what are some of the new technology platforms that you see that may emerge during this time as a result of COVID?
I can answer that. And I'm going to quote the now late Earl G. Graves Sr., founder of Black Enterprise. There was a quote that was shared on their page today that says, never forget that business is personal. The business person who builds the strongest relationships wins. And as simple as that advice is, I would just take that and just apply it here and now. It's all about, you know, like I mentioned before, strengthening those relationships, being smart and strategic about, you know, this isn't just about pushing a product, it's about being a support system. So I'm going to use another example from one of the women in the film. Melissa Butler out of Detroit is founder of the Lip Bar. And, you know, right now, and I've had some conversations with her, some of the concerns is like, okay, people aren't even leaving the house and getting fully dressed, let alone putting on makeup. You know, how does that impact our business? But as we discover over time with the popularity of platforms like this, you know, like Zoom, you still want to look presentable. You know, we all have on a lip at least. And
I put makeup on just for y'all.
And I have Melissa, and I put on, this is a lip bar. This is a Melissa Butler lip bar in honor of.
Same here. Everything, the lip, everything is the lip bar. And so what I have found really smart about what they're doing in their newsletter, you know, on live, they just released this 5-minute fast face package, which I guess is perfect in terms of timing a few months ago, but now they're giving tutorials on how women can create this fast face for your, you know, FaceTime dates, you know, because you're supposed to be in quarantine and you're not with your bae, you're FaceTiming, or for these Zoom conversations. So, you know, just think creatively about how you can be of service to your customers while subtly, you know, putting your brand out there, very subtly. But, you know, we are going to remember that this brand was there for us, giving us these tutorials on how to look presentable during these Zoom meetings.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I really do love that, because you do see people shifting and having new ideas and really reimagining things. I mean, you know, James, would love to hear, because you come from this world of big data and predictive analytics, and you have all of this data sort of in your arsenal where it helps to inform your decisions and to tell an accurate story. You know, if you could share with small businesses now, I know, you know, there is no, you know, magic ball, or, you know, not the little 8-ball that we used to sort of shake up and gives us little answers here and there. But what would you tell small business owners to do right now? Those people, and small business owners can be defined in so many different ways. We have small business owners who maybe closed right after this, right? Like the impact has affected them so much that they won't be able to rebound. But then you have some small businesses that have been able to shift and do the work from home. And then some small businesses that are really waiting to see. Like there's that let me wait and see mentality. And I'd be interested to see what your thoughts are around the wait and see mentality, or just some advice around what people can do right now.
Yeah, all right. Well, the wait and see attitude is prudent because there's so much that's uncertain, but there are two things worth pointing out about that. The first is that the challenge and the opportunity that we face is that there are so many behaviors and patterns that have been upended, thrown out the door, and some of those are permanent changes. So in some ways, that dislocation has been horribly painful to many people and many businesses. But in other ways, these dislocations are creating new behaviors, new patterns, new demand, and new opportunities. So if there's one piece of advice to share is to start thinking about how to build in mechanisms to be able to project what the post-COVID environment is going to end up looking like. Because that kind of knowledge, being able to sense that early and start to get in front of it, can create significant business advantage. We actually thought that our business was going to be shot. Back when we were looking at data starting to come in February, we thought this is going to be bad, that there's going to be no room for us, that this is not only going to mean zero income, but also a loss. And so, you know, back in February, I learned how to trade options, betting against companies that I thought were going to collapse, figuring, okay, I can hedge my business by doing that. But as we started to reframe and just going back to what we do in good times or bad, thinking about what are these fundamental patterns that are shifting and changing and how can you get in front of it, we realized, wait, that's the core of what our business is. And we've actually been busier than we ever had in the history of our businesses in the last 3 weeks. And so do think about that, about like building those mechanisms to project what that post-COVID environment is going to look like. And as mentioned earlier, it's not all about sitting on a reservoir of big data. Sometimes small data can be valuable as well too. So for example, just talking with your constituency and your stakeholders about, in this new world, what are they hating and have to find, what's the pain point that they have to resolve? What are the things they're actually liking about this new environment? As a lot of us have learned to deal and find new ways to get things done. What are the things that they miss and are going to be rushing back to? If you can put your finger on those things early and start building towards those paths. So we're actually going through a very methodical process around that for some clients, about figuring those things out, to figure out how people are going to want to live at home and live in their community, and to be able to help them make stronger strategy and capital commitments to invest heavily coming out of this recession. But those core questions are the kinds of things that a lot of other businesses can do as well too, whether or not there is big data around that. But the second point about this kind of shift is that for those of us who are B2B service providers, there are clients out there who understand that these dislocations are opening up new market, are opening up these new changes, new behaviors, new patterns, new opportunities. And thus, we've been surprised when I thought we were just going to end up totally hosed. It's been really nice to know there are clients out there, paying clients out there that want to get that stuff done. It's just figuring out, like, you know, what is it's the pivot. What is it? What's the service that really matters at this time? Like, as Renee had put out there, what's the service? You know, or for Elizabeth, it's like what is the pivot, and figuring that out. And it has actually been an okay time. So do think about not what you used to do, not what you used to deliver, but what were the core capabilities that you had that can overlap onto these things that people hate and pain points they have to fix, or that people are actually liking about the change that's happened, or about the things that they dearly miss and are going to run back to. Figure out those paths, put yourself in those paths for when the rebound happens. And at least among our larger clients, they're totally buying into that, locking into it, and they're going to clean up. But that's what I think all of us have to start thinking about, is how do we make the changes we need to survive now, and then how do we think about making sure that we're around to be in front of when everything opens up again.
Can I add one thing to that? I so agree with James, and something I do get excited about is small businesses and early entrepreneurs can pivot much faster than enterprise companies.
Yep.
So I think there is an opportunity here to, it's very hard. I worked for the UN for 10 years. I worked with Dell, who I adore. And big organizations, it just takes time to shift, and it should take time. There's a lot of responsibility there. But small startups, small businesses, entrepreneurs tend to be able to be a little bit more nimble and pivot very quickly. So I do think it is a time to take advantage of that. The second is there an opportunity to help larger organizations pivot? So if you see a pain point in an enterprise company, get in there. Maybe co-build with them. We built Alice inside of Dell. It was an awesome partnership. But really think about, are you yourself as an organization, can you pivot to take advantage, and or can you serve a need for one of these larger either government institutions or enterprise to pivot? And I think that's a very big opportunity.
I love the phrase. I love the phrase co-building. It's exactly part of what we're doing, and it's everyone's been upended. So there's a little bit more. We can move as small businesses faster than they can, but they've also had things turned upside down. So they are much more receptive to co-building. It's a great phrase for that.
Yeah. Wait, Elizabeth, someone just asked, is the business center only helping businesses that make a certain income monthly? So if you could maybe just give us, maybe unpack like sort of the process and the folks that can apply for those grants and go there and get access to the information.
Sure. So the COVID Center itself is actually built on top of a machine learning platform. So the information you're going to get is actually relevant to your industry, stage of growth, and physical location. So we built it so whether you are one employee up to 500 employee size organization, all the resources there are relevant for you. We did not build it for the enterprise level. So we are about small business. But whether you've been in business 30 years or 2, it is relevant. The grants are specific to what the SBA would concern micro businesses. So these are under 20 employees, the $10,000 emergency grants. But the COVID Center overall is for all small and medium enterprise.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. So we're getting a lot of questions. So I'm trying to serve the people with the questions. So one question that just came in, you mentioned the importance of strategy right now and to sort of throw out the plan and create something new as we talk about pivoting and shifting. One person here has a PR agency that started in January 2020. So they just started their agency. I know. They're interested from all of you. So if you could all give your POV, and maybe Renee, let's start with you because you come from the PR world. What are some tips for creating this new strategy? So is this, a mind mapping, or is it, what does the strategy look like? What does that process look like? Their client focus has been on the hardest hit groups, which are small businesses, entrepreneurs, and nonprofits. Did we lose Renee? I think we lost Renee. Okay, maybe she'll dial back in. Do you guys want to just chime in on that? So it's basically, okay, create a new strategy, throw out the old plan, but what's a process, or what are some tips that people can utilize on building that new strategy?
And to build on prior comments that Elizabeth and I laid out, I mean, probably what I would think about doing is go to your friends and your base that you have in place and offer to co-create. I mean, you can be honest with those folks who know you and say, look, I started in January, and realize it's a problem for me, but it's a problem for a lot of folks. Is there anything any pain points you're trying to deal with, and you'd like to see something get built? And they might not have budgets for it yet, but if you've got spare cycles, I'd certainly consider doing that, because it can end up solidifying your ability to generate revenue from them when budgets open back up again.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
And
I'm sorry. No, go ahead. I was going to say, Elizabeth, I love what you said about the co-building. Go ahead.
Yeah. So for and I'm sorry I can't see your face, whoever asked that question, but we have a lot of business owners because we're in this up economy that we're just launching. Mm-hmm. And my heart goes out to y'all because I know how hard it is just to start and how brave that is. To me, what I would do is back up and do the process that you just did in launching again. And I know that's like, but don't try and turn your current model and meld it into something. You need to back up and re-whiteboard. What's the skill set you have right now? Mm-hmm. What does the market look like right now? Look up the term SWOT analysis on the internet, SWAT, not SWAT like shooting people SWAT, but the actual business term. And do a SWOT analysis of your company, your skill sets, what's your network, and then re-look at that business launch and business plan. And then I can't stress enough what James said is make sure you're using the new reality and not the old reality as you're doing that. And then that will educate you on, here's where I fit in the new market. Here's who I should co-create with. Here's who my customer set could be. And then finally, not too far down in that process, get other people on the phone to do it with you. I can't tell you how important that is. If things stay in your own head, you can get stuck. So pull people into that process. If you don't have employees yet, that's okay. Pull other business owners in.
Yeah. I like, again, just that co-building, and I'll speak personally for Skai Blue Media. I was in the process of looking to acquire another agency to really, expand our suite of services. And, as soon as we started to see everything, and I don't want to say when everything started to happen, we did see a shift in mindset somewhere in February. And I think, James, you and I had like coffee one morning and we started to see it and we were like, things are shifting. And we were talking about, different demographics and economies and business corridors. And as we started to see that, it was like, okay, let's make some different business decisions. But again, like just to sort of underscore the co-building piece, what we did was we pivoted. And instead of moving forward with those things, because we are a small business, we created a strategic partnership with that business so that we could test out what the next year looks like. So it gives us an opportunity to see what it is, like what it's like to work together, so that once we do get on the other side of this, we can accurately figure out how to work on things. I think Renee's trying to join back. Another question just came back in. 2 questions just came back in. And speaking of pivot, that is our key word for tonight. Right now, there is a lot of talk about pivoting your business. However, there are some pivots that people are noticing that can be harmful for a business. What are some of the pitfalls they should look out for? For example, making a certain pivot may go against the pillars or the values if you've already put those things together.
Yeah.
Man, I'll just jump in because I care so much about everyone, and there are some things that I want folks to be careful for. First and foremost are predatory offers. You might be getting spammed right now in your email, on the phone. There are predatory lenders. There are predatory products and services. There's a lot of scams right now. So if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Be very careful when it comes to any kind of loans, financing that you're going through credited services. There are groups that are popping up saying they will help you apply for different CARES Act activities, but they're asking you for your social, your EIN. So I just want you all to be very careful. Don't be afraid, but be very careful about the services that you're responding to. You should be using groups that you already have knowledge of, the brands that you know, or do a quick check with other owners. Hey, have you seen this? Ask us on Hello Alice. We're trying to weed through a lot of predatory folks. We're also reporting them immediately. So I do want to flag that. The second thing is I want you to be very careful with your capital. Cut everything you are not using right now, even if it saves you $500. Look at all your services. Also, a lot of enterprise companies are being great to pause monthly fees or forgive monthly fees. And so don't be paying for things right now that you're not using. If you have office space and you're leasing, you can't get in that office right now, you can technically probably not pay that space. So be careful on predatory, but also just take the time to cut through everything right now that you're spending money on and see if you can hit a pause button on it.
And then,
James?
also the other thing I'd say is if we're all being forced to rethink and pivot in some way or another, but do try to find the pivots that do two things simultaneously. One, fit market need that you're hearing about, market pain that you're hearing about. That improves the odds of success. And then two, where you have a right to win. In other words, pivoting to some place where you have no asset base or no ability to win is probably just going to be spinning wheels and burning time and cash. But if you can find that intersection between, where the client need and where the pain is and where you have some right to win, that certainly dramatically increases the odds. And then the other thing I was just going to mention is that it's really hard to sell in this environment, which is why you want to think about what is your established base already. It's like at my data science firm, we sell really expensive enterprise software. The thing that's been blowing me away is we're selling that stuff remotely now. I never thought that ever could have been sold remotely. I thought that required a couple of trips. But it's because, it's one is what's the base of contacts that you already have with the current firm or your prior work. That certainly helps a lot. And then it's also thinking about, okay, the new reality is, everything's going to get sold differently. So how do we deal with it?
Renee, we're happy to have you back. I know your connection kicked you off. Happy to have you back. Would love for you to weigh in. So once you, before you logged off, we had a question from someone and would love to get your thoughts around this. A business just started in January of 2020, a PR business, and a lot of her core clients are the businesses that have been hit hard. So she was wondering how she should prepare in these times when she just started her business and now, she was hit. So Elizabeth and James were talking about this sort of theory of co-building and partnership and building things in other larger enterprises and serving need. But since you do come from the world of PR and branding, would love to get your thoughts around businesses that just started in January of 2020.
Wow. So I can only imagine how stressful this time is, especially as a new business. But I think that this is an excellent time to shift your packaging. I know that most PR and branding firms, their contractual agreements with clients are based on, a monthly retainer, a yearly retainer. And now in terms of like getting new business, hopefully her existing clients, aren't shifting gears on her, but in terms of getting new business during these times where, people are really scaling back, I think that this is a great opportunity to be more flexible. Maybe it's not, I know for me, I used to have like a minimum of a 6-month, contractual agreement so that we could at least try to create some results. Maybe now you're creating more affordable packages that are based on month to month. and that are a little bit more affordable. You know, this is something that I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs about. We're in this space where a lot of the things that we may have charged for we're sharing for free because, you know, a lot of us are in survival mode. So even like conversations like this, where someone may have had a speaker's fee, you're here because you want to contribute to the community. So in terms of her PR business, I would definitely recommend looking at what she can offer clients in more bite-sized forms, you know, in ways that are more affordable for them and doesn't feel like such a long-term investment, but allows them to keep their business moving forward. Because this is the time when brands need PR. You know, this is not the time where we should look at that as a luxury, but you know, as we know, PR and branding, when it comes to budgets, it is sometimes a luxury, especially for smaller businesses.
That's super helpful. And as an owner of an agency, you know, I do empathize. And James shared some of your earlier sentiments of like, oh my gosh, everyone's getting hit. And I had this moment of contributing to the alarmist sort of panic behavior. And it was a moment to say, no, Rakia, this is what your core competencies are at your agency. You know, I actually started the agency as a crisis communications agency before we got into lifestyle. So we had to quickly adjust our offering so that we could operate in a very fast sprint. You know, before it was, you take 1 month for research and development and you get to have time to research and all of that. And now it's like, you get 1 day. You know, you sign on with people. It's like, you gotta hit the ground running. And that runway, before when it was like this big, now the runway is about this big. So totally hear you on that, Renee. And for a lot of the small businesses that we serve, we're operating again, because information is changing day by day, week to week. You know, our plans are shifting and we're working with companies on these week by week plans. So I appreciate your insight there. We only have about 13 minutes left, and I wanted to cover a couple of things, and we actually have more questions. This is a very active group with the questions, so I appreciate you all for asking questions. Renee, I did want to talk a little bit about the art for solace that we're seeing right now. And Elizabeth, you have over 100,000 businesses in your, you know, on the Hello Alice platform, so you can probably chime in on this as well. But what we've been noticing online is that people are turning towards things like Netflix and TikTok and IG Lives as some solace right now. To, you know, I got into a little bit of a Twitter chat tiff with someone the other day, like, oh my gosh, why does everybody keep doing lives? And it's like, well, that's what people are doing to help cope. And Renee, I'd love to hear from all of you all. What have you been seeing as like in different mediums of people utilizing different tools to cope or to go through at this point?
Right. Well, I mean, obviously there's a huge increase in the use of IG Live. I would just ask people, because it can be overwhelming, to just be intentional about your IG Lives. I think that because we do have a little more time in our hands, and it's a human reaction to want to always be connected, especially for people who are isolated. The answer is not always IG Live, but there are ways to connect. And I think that content is powerful right now because it's giving us the escapism that we need. I mean, I think like the rest of the world sat and just binge watched Tiger King, when any other time of the year, I don't know if I would have binge watched that, if I would have had time or interest, but it was a wonderful way to escape, you know, the world that we're in. So I think that, you know, any brand, any small business that is able to connect with people in that way, I say do it, have fun with it. one thing that I saw, a group of founders, a group of beauty industry founders got in on the TikTok, and you know, like the transition. So
yes.
it was literally
the Don't Rush Challenge. The Don't Rush Challenge.
Yes, which I thought I was getting tired of, but then when I saw them, I was like, oh, this is cute. But it was like 10 founders, and the name of it was the 10 Most Wanted. And, you know, conversations surrounding what women are doing with their hair is a big deal. So I thought it was pretty smart for these founders to come in and, you know, first they were looking, you know, kind of quarantined out, you know, sweats, their hair wasn't together, but then when they transition and show their product, they're glammed. And so it was a good way to show unity in the beauty industry, to show that all these founders are coming together to have fun on TikTok. But again, subtly, you're reminding us that your products are there for us during this time where, you know, we still have to take care of ourselves. Right now, I'm taking more baths, you know, doing more wellness and skincare and hair care. And so I thought that was pretty smart for them to get in on that fun, but again, also remind people that, you know, my brand is here and keep it top of mind.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth, do you have anything to add around what you see? And maybe there are some small businesses on your platform doing things to help with the shift and the coping.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, I love relationships that are forming, and we had this little group in Alaska talking to a little group in Florida. I mean, hilarious on how they're pivoting their businesses, and now they're becoming fast friends. The other thing that I love seeing is the creativity, art, and music for children. Obviously, one of the massive pain points right now is childcare, and so the art that has come out, the music that's come out, the live teaching that's coming out, I think is incredibly inspiring, and it's also, I think, emotionally important for the children, and it's incredibly important for parents like me who are also trying to work. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you. No,
For
that's
instance,
great.
in the middle of the webinar, I've had my son, my dog, my elderly mother try and come in here.
And that's, you know, we have been getting to see everyone's, like, you know, we talk about IG Live, but the life aspect of all of this, getting to see a child run through somebody, you know, we work with some big companies and we see like the CMO's child like dart through the back, and it just humanizes.
Naked, probably too.
Yes, or like hitting the whoa, and it's like, you know what? I love that. Like, I love the human side of this, and I think that it, you know, there's a silver lining in a lot of things that we do. Someone just popped in, and James, you know, again, from this predictive analytics standpoint, are there things that you're seeing? Because a lot of folks in the experiential space, in the event space, are saying, like one person said, I plan an annual conference in November, a nonprofit, so they depend on that fundraising piece.
No.
Should companies plan with events later in the year as the usual shift, or should people really lean into the virtual vertical of things?
Oh, good question. First off, part of this is something that is completely unpredictable, and that is sort of what happens as we're trying to forecast the economy. When the economy opens up, we realize that as good as our machines are, we just can't forecast when there are going to be stronger medical interventions and medical treatments and so, you know, whether we're all gathering again in the summer or the fall or the winter or next year, we don't really know yet. So that's part of the problem with the kind of business that you're in, is that, you know, fortunately, I think that your facilities are going to be more flexible than they have been in the past, because they're getting hit too. So they can't call all the shots. You probably have a little bit more flexibility to plan something and to adjust if you need to. But, you know, earlier we were talking about how there are fundamental patterns that have been changed, and changed for good. It's probably fair to say that to some extent you want to be leaning into the online remote to some extent. I was supposed to deliver a keynote presentation at the end of March that was canceled. at a conference. They decided they had to cancel the conference, but they decided to offer their attendees a webinar and the keynote instead. They found that the webinar had many more people on than the conference had signed up. Mm-hmm. So it ended up expanding the reach to do that. And so that's one of the reasons why it's just lean in a little bit into this world, because patterns have shifted, and they've probably shifted for good to some extent. So you need to figure out how to build your brand in that kind of environment is probably the advice I'd have. But we also mentioned that question earlier about figuring out what are the things that have changed that are painful, real pain points, versus what are the things that change that people actually like. So in other words, if you can foster personal connections at scale, that might be a business around that too. And then also, what are the things that are going to boomerang because people miss them so bad they're going to run back to? I would bet you that once we get an all clear medically, face-to-face interaction is going to be in huge demand.
Yeah.
So the question is, do you have the bandwidth to both lean in short term to build the connectivity, build the value, to be able to capitalize on the reconnection again long term?
James, I think that was great that you answered it like that. I was on the phone with a major book publisher earlier talking about the same exact thing. Should we launch here or should we do this then? And one of the pieces of feedback from one of the marketing folks was, hey, we were supposed to have this book launch a few weeks ago. Typically, if we would have done this in person, we would have gotten about 100 people, and we did it virtually and had over 800 people.
Yeah.
So we are in this arena where it is about experimentation and, being able to bounce back and have the bandwidth for folks. When we do get on the other side of this, there's going to be a flood of people wanting, because we are a species that still loves human interaction. As you can see, with how difficult it is to social distance, we still will come out in droves for those events when we are on the other side of this, and when we have some news. Our last 3 minutes, I would love for you to go around the Zoom in our nice evening Zoom room. One piece of advice, one takeaway, one thing that you want our audience to be able to hear. And again, just to remind everyone, this is recorded and we are going to be distributing this on, it's going to be omni-channel. So IG will put pieces of this on Twitter, some on Facebook, some on YouTube, and some on Vimeo, because we also have a community of a client who is of the deaf community, a civil rights attorney who has requested that this go online and have captions. So we are serving that community as well.
I'll start. One thing I will share for, my fellow entrepreneurs and small business owners is just extend yourself some grace during this time. I've talked to a lot of women who are super stressed out and feeling like they're not handling this the right way and not getting enough done. And I think because this is just unfamiliar territory for all of us, we're all trying to figure it out. Lean into your communities, lean into your tribe and your networks, and have those honest conversations about what you're experiencing. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to find out that we're all experiencing that, and we're all just figuring it out together,
Awesome. Thanks.
And I would say mine are twofold. One is I want y'all to access and apply for every legitimate resource out there. We as women, people of color, we don't tend to apply for federal and state activities. We don't like to get loans. Also, I've heard a lot of women say, does it mean I'm a failure if I'm applying for assistance, and or am I taking it away from someone else? I've heard that, which is such a beautiful thing to say, but no, you're not. I want everyone to apply. We don't know what the world is going to bring. We don't know how long this is going to last. So look at the CARES Act, see what you qualify for, apply for the legitimate grants out there from enterprise names that you know. I really want y'all to do that. And then the second, to build on what Renee said, is please reach out and talk to people. I can't tell you how important it is to talk to other business owners, other individuals. Don't do things in a vacuum. So, and try to exercise and have your cocktails.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you said that about the loans. Yes. Tell everyone to go ahead and get the money. That someone just chimed in and said, get the monies.
Yes, get the monies. Do it.
James?
And remember, the reason why the federal government is doing that, they realize that basically from a strategic perspective, the best thing they can do is to keep payrolls going. And it's why they want to, basically they're putting $2 trillion out on the market because next quarter alone, we're going to see about a $1.5 trillion wipe out of the economy. Mm-hmm. They're trying to figure out that is their bet as to how to try to stabilize as fast as possible. So that's why they're offering that. Another quick comment is at the start of the call, Rakia asked about some of the data that we're seeing on economic impacts. And we talked about how deep and severe this is going to be on a county by county basis. And in some counties, it's going to be wicked severe with 30 to 50% of the economy evaporating for the next quarter. And then I commented that now we're going to get to see how strong our communities really are in getting people through it and building beyond. So one piece of advice would be figure out what is your community that matters to you and get out in front of leading it. Help people leading the way out. People are going to remember that. And it's how you're going to help make sure that we've got the strongest recovery possible. So that's one piece of advice on that. And then the other sort of closing thought is these are really trying times, and it's forcing all of us to rethink what our core business is, what our core value is. And it's very challenging, but just remember, it's making all of us stronger too. And it's going to make us a lot stronger for when we come out the other end.
Wow. No, I mean, that actually just hit me as well. So we're out of time, but thank you, James, Elizabeth, and Renee,
thank you so much.
All of your valuable insight. To all of you who attended, thank you so much for your hour of time. We're going to be putting this on all of our platforms. Additionally, we will be back next week. So same time, same place, and we'll give you all the link to participate next week. But thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Having us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good night. Be well, everyone.
Yep.
Bye.
Stay safe, stay well.
Thank you.
Okay. Hey, nice job.